Start off with a square canvas. For this picture we're going to use mostly an edited monoline brush, so swipe across to duplicate the monoline brush, select properties and increase the maximum size and click done. If you look in the description of this video, you'll see the individual RGB codes for all of the colours I've used. So if you want to input them, just click on the boxes on the right hand side and input the codes to get the colours. Start off by selecting the background colour layer and selecting the colour for your background. Next, start on the first layer, which should already be selected, and select the second darkest shade of green. Reduce your brush size and tap in the middle of the screen to create your first P. If it's not big enough, just adjust and go again. Next, you're going to duplicate this layer by swiping across and hitting duplicate. Select the next lightest shade of green and use the colour drop to fill the circle. Next, select the cursor and make sure uniform is selected, as well as snapping and magnetics turned on. Make this circle a little bit smaller than the dark green one and center it using the snapping function. Add a new layer and select the colour white. Reduce the size of the brush and draw a small highlight in the top of the lighter circle. Merge the three layers together and then tap the layer and select Alpha Lock. The checkered pattern behind the circle shows that it's on. Select Gaussian blur and slide to blur the circles together to about 8 or 9%. Next, change to the colour black, and this is going to be for the eyes. Adjust the size of your brush for the eyes and tap to create 2 black dots. Once you're happy with the eyes, reduce the brush size and draw in the mouth. You draw a curved line for the mouth, tap and hold to make a perfect arc. Next, select white, adjust the brush size again and tap 2 dots for the whites of the eyes. Once you're happy with the eyes and the mouth, select the airbrushing brushes and select soft blend. Select the light pink colour and lightly draw circles on both sides for the blush. Once you're happy that this is the face that all 3 Ps are going to have, duplicate the layer twice. And now you'll have 3 layers and you can drag one to the right and the other one to the left so that all 3 Ps are touching. Once this is done and you're happy with the placement, merge the 3 layers together. Now if the Ps look too big on the canvas, you can resize to make them a little bit smaller. Next, it's time to add a couple more small details to the faces. So select black, reduce the size of the brush and make sure you reselect your calligraphy monoline brush that you've made. For the first one, just draw a few little lines on the side of the eye to make the eyelashes. I left the middle one alone, and then at the end I drew slightly shorter lashes but more towards the top of the eye. Now that the Ps are finished, it's time to start drawing the pod. So create a new layer and select the green that you originally started with, the second darkest shade. Increase the brush size a little bit and start drawing the pod on the left hand side in the middle of the far left P. Create a wavy line that runs above their eyes and finish on the right hand side in the middle. Along the bottom you can cut across the bottom of each P and again bring it up to meet the other half. Drawing the top part, make sure you go above the top of the Ps, and then when you're doing the bottom part, make sure you go underneath the bottom of the Ps. And once you finish drawing these, colour drop to fill these 2 areas. Next it's time to do the shading, so tap the layer and turn on Alpha Lock again. Select your darkest shade of green and using the edges as a guide, start tracing along the lines of the edges so that a small bit of the dark green can be seen on the edge. As you're going to be blending these parts to make a shadow, they don't need to be completely accurate, so don't worry too much about how precise you're being. I've sped this next part up a little bit just to save some time, but when you're doing the top, just do the exact same thing so you can see that dark green on all of the outer edges. Once you're finished that, select the lightest shade of green and reduce the brush size slightly. Draw a slightly wavy line in the middle of the top and again in the middle of the bottom. Select Gaussian blur and blur up to about 6 or 7%. Tap the layer and turn off Alpha Lock and use the automatic selection tool. Make sure the color fill is turned off. Tap the center and keep it selected and create a new layer. Drag this layer to the bottom of the other layers. Select the dark green color and drag to fill. Then deselect your selection tool. Next, tap the layer with the peas and from there create a new layer. Select the color black and increase the brush size slightly. Next, draw along the lower edge of the top of the pod and then again also on the upper edge of the bottom of the pod. Once you've done that, tap the layer, select the N and reduce the opacity down to about 50%. Then select Gaussian blur and blur this layer until it's blended about 7%. Now that the pod is complete, it's time to make the white outline for the sticker. So merge the layers together and use the automatic selection tool to select the pod. Select feather and drag out to where you want the outline to be. Keep this selected and create a new layer. Select the color white and drag to fill the selected area. Deselect and reselect the automatic selection tool and tap the area. Use color fill to turn this area white. Drag this layer underneath your original layer. This is what gives you your sticker effect. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and please follow along for more or comment any suggestions of what you'd like to see in the future.